Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Community and Culture Committee meeting of Monday, the 10th of March, 2025. I'd like to declare the meeting open at 6:01 p.m. I'd also like to acknowledge the Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation, who are the traditional custodians of all lands, waters and sky in the Georges River area. I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples who live, work and meet on these lands. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. The next item on the agenda is apologies. I think we have a full complement of committee members tonight, as well as the mayor, so I think we can leave that and move to the next item. Are there no requests to attend remotely? Everybody's in the room. Okay. The next item is the notice of live streaming of council meetings. Staff and public are reminded that this meeting is being recorded for minute taking purposes, and it's also being broadcast live to the public on council's website in accordance with section 5 of council's code of meeting practice. The recording will be made available on council's website. Code of meeting practice. The order of business is as shown in the agenda, which has been made available. Staff and public are reminded that this meeting is open. Doors to the meeting room are to be left open unless the meeting moves into a closed or confidential session, according to section 14 of the Code of Meeting Practice. Only if the meeting moves into a closed or confidential session will the public broadcasting of the meeting be suspended. Council's Code of Meeting Practice prohibits the electronic recording of meetings without the express permission of council. Mobile phones must be turned to silent during the meeting. Disclosures of interest. Do any of the councillors have any disclosures for tonight's meeting? I'll take that as a no. Okay. We have no registered speakers for public forums, so our next order of business is the confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting, which was COM 004-25, the Community and Culture Committee meeting held on 10th of February 2020. So I'd like to call for the mover and a seconder, please. I'll move that. Moved by Councillor Mort and seconded by Councillor Allison. Back to the meeting. All those in favour, please say aye. Anyone against? Okay, we'll declare that carried. Okay, our first report for this evening is COM 005-25, optimising community use and access to council's premium facilities, where first we're going to hear a report from the council's manager of City Life, Ms. Lee, but firstly I'm going to need to call for a mover and a seconder for this report. I'll move that. Moved by Councillor Mort, seconded by Councillor Wang. All those in favour? Aye. No, we don't have to do that. Okay, what was I talking about? Sorry about that. I'll now call on Ms. Margaret Lee to give us an overview, of this particular report. Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you, good evening, councillors. So this report tonight is quite lengthy. It has several recommendations, which I'll take the time to speak through each element. So this report is in relation to a notice of motion from April 2024 that called for the General Manager to initiate a formal comprehensive plan aimed at optimising community use and access to premium facilities with quite an extensive list for inclusion in that plan. So tonight's report is presenting that plan to council, and so that is what the recommendation A is about, that council receive and note the optimising community access and facility use plan. I'll talk a bit to that plan, which is in attachment 1. So it's been developed for that goal to increase community access and use across all council facilities, and establishes a new process for transparent, fair and equitable use for both community and commercial users, balancing those commercial goals of our premium facilities with the community needs and demands for these highly valued council assets as well. You'll see in the report that the plan, which I'll call for short the plan, has undergone a lot of development, and we have presented the plan in terms of short, medium and long-term actions, and quite a few of the short-term actions are underway. I wanted to bring to Council's attention that part of the development of the plan in consideration of that notice of motion and resolution of Council was an analysis of the opportunities and constraints for each of the facility types, and then developing the actions that some are already under the way, such as standardising the naming convention of Council's sporting facilities so that it is a tiered system based on criteria such as the condition, the usage and the maintenance requirements. So in attachment, lost the attachment. In one of the attachments, apologies, there's many attachments, we present the entirety of Council's sporting facilities by their classification of a stadium, a facilities under a contract, a tier 1 natural turf field, a tier 2 is any synthetic turf fields, and tier 3 natural turf fields, so that it is clearer for the customer as well as our internal council processes the requirements associated with each of those facility types, as well as the fees and charges. Makes sense from the community's perspective as well. A few other things that have been underway would be the expansion of some of our premium facilities on our online booking and payment system, Bookable, including including Hurstport Oval and Penshurst Park Sporting Hub, and the keyless access system installed in Blackshaw Gould Community Pavilion, and brings me on to the second and third recommendation from tonight in relation to the development of a new sports ground access policy and the review of current policies that can contribute to the optimising of community access and use of Council's premium facilities. So the two policies that are put forth to Council for consideration to endorse for public exhibition is an update to the grants and donations policy, a change to the policy scope so that all Council's facilities are eligible for community grants so long as the applicant meets certain eligibility criteria. Previously, the policy excludes all premium facilities. Secondly, there's also the development of a new draft sports ground access policy, which has been created to establish really clear principles guiding how Council decides the access and the management of our sports facilities, and ensures that better transparency and appropriate community access and utilisation across all of our grounds. And this policy in its draft format has been heavily consulted with Council Sports Advisory Committee across 2 meetings since last year and this year. So we're quite comfortable with the policy in its draft format for public exhibition for further community feedback. So I'm happy to take any questions.
I'd just like to say thank you. That's a very thorough report. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Arthur.
Yeah, just a question through you, Madam Chair. Olds Park in that third attachment has been separated across 2 tiers. What sort of will that have any implications for sporting clubs who use both Field 1 and Field 2 simultaneously, such as St George AFL and the Little Athletics?
Through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, great pick up there, Councillor. So we have a situation at a sporting location where there are different quality and tiering of facilities. So in this instance, fields at that one venue. So Olds Park Field 1 is classified as a premium facility. It has a higher level of maintenance and cost required for the level of sport that is played there. But the good thing with the improvements and initiatives underway is that all the fields, all the facilities at location are bookable online. The prices are publicly available, and the customer doesn't have to do sort of wayfinding through different council departments to be able to access or amend those bookings.
if I follow that up. So in terms of seasonal bookings and that sort of regular use that been across 2 tiers, is that going to prevent a sports club from having that season booking for both fields at the same time, or is it just going to be as is now?
So, through you, Madam Chair, the draft sports ground access policy was developed to address and address current feedback around lack of transparency or communication, how council internally determines in instances of a booking conflict for a season, why one organisation may get their preferred dates over another. So that sort of booking conflict criteria has been workshopped with the Sports Advisory Committee, who nearly all of them, except like golf and swimming, undergo council's winter and summer season expressions of interest booking process, where they book the facility for half a year. So that's where we would engage through the public exhibition period for any further insight or concerns or improvements on what the draft policy entails, because once a report goes back to council post the public exhibition period, and any changes or improvements are provided from community feedback, we can then finalise that policy and put it into practice.
Further to that, through you, Madam Chair, one community group may have access to multiple fields. So they might have one field for 2 nights and another field for 2 nights, and they're both under seasonal agreements. So if that's the current status quo, that could still occur under the current policy. Thanks.
Any further questions, councillors? Councillor Wang?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. So I just want to say it's a very good report, and I can sense the report is pointing to a direction for the primary facilities to be more open to the community, not locked down by the special organizations or associations, and it will provide an enormous benefit to the community and public emerging organizations. So just for in line with that, this is for primary facilities. So do we have any strategy for other venues, facilities? It may not be directly related to this report. What I'm saying is, are we just have a strategy or direction just to give access more to the community for all venues?
Through you, Madam Chair, we have the existing action within this plan that talks to a promotional and marketing plan for all of our community facilities attached to some sort of sporting field, so like Black Chalk or Booth Saunders Pavilion. But we also have a marketing plan that is promoting our venues, so all of our hireable spaces such as PJ Ferry, Hurstville Senior Citizen Centre. So that is also occurring, and we have, whilst it's not relevant to this particular report, I know there was a resolution last year regarding that. And that will come back to you in a further report, looking at the new fees and charges that we've implemented and action in that resolution.
Okay, thank you. Look forward to it.
Thank you. I just want to speak in favour of the motion and make some comments about that. I think this is an example of where sometimes councils put in what we think is a simple request. In this instance, was to provide greater access to the community to our premium facilities. And the report here reflects a huge amount of work that your team has undertaken to achieve that goal. And there's been obviously, development of new policies, adapting existing policies, and basically changing a lot of the way that things are operating. So I want to acknowledge that sometimes when we think it's a simple request, there's a huge amount that goes on in the background, and the report reflects that. And I want to say that it was a really thorough report. And I really think will be a great outcome for the community when this is in place, by enabling some of those premium facilities to be opened up to the community for greater access and utilisation, while still protecting the objective of generating revenue out of them for the commercialisation. So, and the sports ground access policy is a great step forward for that transparency with the community on how decisions are made. That has caused conflict you know, in the community in the past, because there simply hasn't been rules out there that people could refer back to. So I think that is going to improve hopefully the operations and think managing it from your team. So I think it's a really good report, and I just want to say thank you. Speak for the motion. Thanks.
Thank you, Neville. Councillors, any further questions or comments? I would also just like to echo what the Mayor has said then. A lot of work has gone into putting this together. Often these sorts of things are like herding cats because there's so many moving parts. To pull it together to make it ultimately more accessible and streamlined for the stakeholders that use it, whether it's sporting clubs in this instance, because we're predominantly talking about sporting fields. And as I think Ms. Lee said, there are a number of clubs that have access to a number of different fields, and council needs to have a greater oversight of what's actually happening at these fields and whether they're being utilised to their best capacity, and if they're everybody wants more access, I guess, and there's so many competing interests all the time for more access to fields, because it's not just, we need to bear in mind as well, it's not just the sporting clubs that use the fields, it's community members that want to kick the ball around at Parkside Drive, for example, on a Sunday afternoon, and school groups use our fields as well, so they're very well used 7 days a week, most of them. And you know, this report sort of leads us to a better oversight, I would think, to actually manage that use. And the part that I'm particularly pleased about is taking council suggesting management of the synthetic fields, because they can be a real saviour when we've got bad weather. Going back to a couple of years ago, or 22, when we had terrible weather, that many of the soccer football clubs were the ones that were on the outer, because their parks were kind of swampy. So it was the fields that were, or the clubs that had access to synthetics that were less impacted, but there didn't seem to be great communication around that. The clubs are great at talking to each other. And I think if council had greater oversight to say, yeah, there's a gap between, say, 4 and 6 p.m. that can be allocated really quickly, this eventually will I think, be a much better way of managing it. So, yeah, congratulations to the council officers for pulling this together. I think it's a big step forward. Going out on exhibition, of course, folks, we need to remember that. It's not a done deal yet. We may come back with some other comments from the community. Also, really think it was a good move to discuss it with the representatives on the Sports Advisory Committee, because who better is placed than them, because, you know, they're doing it out of, they're all voluntary people, or 99% of them are voluntary people, I think, doing it because of their love of their sport. So they're best placed to provide input from on the ground. So I'll leave it at that. But if we've got no further comments, we might go around the room for the vote on this, Ms. McKinley, if that's okay.
Your vote, please, Madam Mayor.
4.
Madam Chair.
4.
Councillor Allison.
4.
Councillor Anzalotti.
4.
Councillor Arthur.
4.
Councillor Demosky.
4.
Councillor Gow.
4.
Councillor Liu.
4.
Councillor Mort.
4.
Councillor Wang.
4.
10 votes for unanimous.
Thank you. We'll now move to our next item on the agenda, which is COM 006-25, the adoption of the Community Engagement Policy 2024. And before we go to a report from our Executive Manager of City Futures, I'll call for a mover and a seconder. So is that you, Councillor Liu? Okay, thank you.
I'll second that.
Is moving it, and Councillor Mort is seconding it. Thank you. And we will now go to a report from our Executive Manager of City Futures, Mr. Kent Stroud. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, councillors, you may remember way back in December 2024, I brought a report up requesting to take the community engagement policy out to exhibition. Well, this report follows up from that public exhibition. You will see in the report we received 5 pieces of feedback, relatively minor. The one major one being a stronger link to council's community engagement strategy, and that feedback has now been taken on board. The council's community engagement policy, as I said in December, is a relatively good one. It does represent us well, and we do engagement pretty well, I think. We are required under the Act to review this policy within 3 months. So what you have before you is the slightly amended version, considering that community feedback, and seek endorsement of that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, do we have any questions of Mr. Stroud or the Director? No? Any discussion at all? Councillor Liu or Councillor Moore? No? Councillor Liu?
Yeah, thank you to Madam Mayor. Thank you for Kent to lead these engagement policy draft and put on this adoption in this meeting. Yeah, we all know that's the last one is back to 2021, and then council tried to do it 2024. It's a good timing to to review the policies in detail. So I should say congratulate the Kent come to council and lead for this adoption. Thank you so much. Thank you, Kent.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Liu. Is there any further discussion? If there's not, then I might ask Ms. McKinley if we could please go around the room. Thank you.
Your vote, please, Madam Mayor.
For.
Madam Chair.
For.
Councillor Allison.
For.
Councillor Angelotti.
For.
Councillor Arthur.
For.
Councillor Demoski.
For.
Councillor Gao.
For.
Councillor Liu.
For.
Councillor Mort.
For.
Councillor Wang.
For.
10 votes for, unanimous.
Thank you very much. We will declare that one carried and move on to our next item on the agenda, COM 007-25, the Hurstville Weekly Night Market Preliminary Feasibility Report. And before we go to Mr. Stroud again, I'll call for a mover and a seconder. So moved by Councillor Wang. And is that you, Councillor Liu? Yep, thank you. Okay, and we'll now go to our Executive Manager of City Futures again, Mr. Kent Stroud. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, councillors do acknowledge that this report is in response to a notice of motion from Councillor Wang from April 2024, and it has taken us some time to get to this point. But as expressed before, sometimes these notice of motions do take a little bit of work behind the scenes to present information that is factual to councillors. Lots of teams across council contributed to coming up with these recommendations, as well as the consultation across several businesses within Hurstville. The report responds to the several points. I think there's 10 or 11 points within the notice of motion, but the theme is around the feasibility of weekly night markets in Hurstville Square. And as per the recommendation, based on the evidence we received from local businesses and others, we are recommending that the feasibility of weekly markets in Hurstville Square are not feasible. So we're saying no, we do not support the weekly markets, but we would like to collect some more data from businesses over a period of time and come back and discuss that with councillors. We're saying in the November council meeting. So that will effectively give us 6 months of data that we can work through and have some conversation with businesses over that period of time, support a monthly nightly market and activity continuing down there, along with all the other calendar of events that are already scheduled in. And then we would bring that information back to council later this calendar year and have another conversation about what the activation of the square would look like after that point in time.
Thank you, Mr. Stroud. Councillors, do we have questions? Councillor Wang?
Yeah, so I have a few comments. Yeah, first, thanks to King's team and other teams in the council for delivery. This is a very comprehensive and convincing report. And just remember, King has been with us for a very short tenure, so that's great work. And So as you may know, so I'm very passionate advocate for the night market and raise this motion, and very pleased to see council putting lots of effort and using a very programmatic approach and evidence-based methodology to do all the surveys and experts research and comparing with other councils as well. And it's a true reflection of community sentiment to activate the Hurstville CBD. And I think with this preliminary report, it will set up the blueprint or roadmap for what's coming up to develop the economy in Hurstville and in fact our LGA. Yes, so congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wang. Councillor Wu, did you want to speak to this motion as well as a seconder?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, of course, it's good to see this report coming back to today's meeting. Even it's take a bit of time. I think it's very responsible action behind the scene to come up with a very detailed report, which include, you know, the response to each element in the original motion last year. Yeah, it's good to see that we went outside and listened to the main business stakeholders and even the smaller business down there, and respect to their comments and insight. So that's come up with this detailed report. So it's really a good move to demonstrate how the council is doing this responsible actions to respond to the demand from the community. So that's mainly I wanted to add up a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Liu. Any further comments, councillors? I would just like to add a couple of comments based, continuing on from what both councillors Wang and Liu have said. I think it's a really good report. It's very thorough, and I do like the fact that you said tonight, Mr. Strad, about you're not ruling it out entirely. It's something that might work monthly, but you need more data for that. I mean, my initial concerns were with all due respect, Councillor Wang, that weekly might be a little bit too much. So I think monthly still may not fit into what's an appropriate use of that site, but it also may be great. It may be a great activation. It's a really useful plaza that we have, and we need to activate it. It's sort of like the centre of the CBD where we can hold things, but we also don't want to risk overkill. Sometimes people just want to use the space just to sort of sit and have a chat. It doesn't always need to be a live event, but I appreciate all the effort that's gone into the data collection for this. So thanks for that. I'll finish that there and ask Ms. McKinley if we could please go around the room. Thank you.
Your vote, please, Madam Mayor.
For.
Madam Chair.
For.
Councillor Allison.
For.
Councillor Anzalotti.
For.
Councillor Arthur.
For.
Councillor Jamoski.
For.
Councillor Gao.
For.
Councillor Liu.
For.
Councillor Mort. Councillor Wang.
For.
10 votes for, unanimous.
Thank you. We'll declare that item carried. The next item on the agenda is COM 008-25, the minutes of the Georges River Council Sports Advisory Committee meeting held on the 13th of February 2025. And before we go to a quick overview from our Manager City Life, Margaret Lee, once again, I'll call for a mover and a seconder. So I think it's moved by Councillor Moore and seconded by Councillor Liu, or is that you, Councillor? Yeah, okay. Sorry, because you're sharing a microphone, it's just a bit hard to know who's who down there. Thank you. Okay, well.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. So tonight's report is presenting the minutes of the latest Georges River Council Sports Advisory Committee held on the 13th of February 2025. And I've just noticed in the recommendation there's a typo with the date. It states the 14th of November 2024. And great, thank you for that. Onto it. Thank you. So this is a quarterly committee meeting with 15 elected representatives from local sporting bodies, and the second one of this tenure for the 1-year term of the current Sports Advisory Committee, which was resolved in June last year as an ongoing permanent advisory committee of council. Attached are the minutes, but as a high-level summary, what occurred on that evening, we had an external presenter from New South Wales Office of Sport attend to provide an overview of a strategy by state government to encourage more girls and women to play and stay in sport, which was very well received, as well as overviews from council officers on council's capital works program, our sporting facilities, the Cars Park aquatic facilities update, and the sports field renovation program. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Councillors, Madam Mayor?
Not a question, just a comment. I was away when the sports committee was on, but I dialed in and watched the broadcast, and I would encourage anybody who supports female sports to get on and listen to the speaker that you had from the Office of Sport, because she was very well informed, very motivating, and it was really inspirational to hear her speak. I would also encourage any of the sports clubs, because I have had one of the sports clubs reach out to me with queries around the maintenance of their field, and I directed him to the minutes of the Sports Advisory Committee that is providing a breakdown for every of our playing fields in the LGA of the maintenance schedule that's occurring at that field. So when they're planting seeds and when they're doing this and stuff that I don't know anything about, it's all in there by which month it is occurring at each field. So I'm not sure if all the clubs are aware of that, or if they get sent that. I guess I know it would go to the Sports Advisory Committee, but does it get distributed out to the clubs direct as well? Do we know? Sorry, just a question.
Through you, Madam Chair. No, we don't distribute these directly to the hirers of the fields. We rely on the members of the Sports Advisory Committee through the terms of reference and their role in the committee to then disseminate that on to their respective associations and clubs. However, it could be something that we consider in other communication channels so that more people are aware of this publicly accessible information.
Yeah, I think that if that's possible, I think it would be good, because I think this person thought that perhaps they were getting some secret information. I'm like, no, it's publicly available in the minutes. It's not confidential. It's totally out there for everybody to see, but they obviously just don't know that it exists. So I just encourage everyone to, get on and have a look at the broadcast to hear the speaker from the Office of Sport. It was really good.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I was at that meeting too. She was amazing. Her name's Kerry Turner, and she was, I think, Councillor Moore, you saw it online as well. She was so enthusiastic and passionate about female sport, and it was just really inspiring to listen to. It was actually a really good meeting, and councillors, if you can't get here in person, do check out the meeting online if you can. As the Mayor indicated, there's a lot of really useful information in the accompanying reports that go with it. It's a really comprehensive report of, as the Mayor said, the status of the fields and what's coming next and all the rest of it, and what, because there's always, one of my favourite expressions are, there's so many moving parts in a council and the operations of a council, and this is just one area which obviously not everybody is going to be aware of unless you are participating in a sporting club. You're not really aware of just how much work and just what council's involvement is in maintaining them. So much to it, and which goes back to the other report that we had earlier this evening about streamlining it. I think there's a lot of work that is involved. We can find it as councillors. Sometimes we need to be directed to it. A lot of it is just readily available on the website. But if anybody does ask a question, like the Mayor indicated, you can direct them to the business papers of that particular committee meeting, and also sometimes you just Google it, or do the search option in the Georges River website and you find these things too. But that particular meeting was particularly enjoyable, and I think it also, prior to that meeting, there was one of the workshops with the representatives which contributed to that report that we dealt with in the first meeting. So it's this particular committee, I think, has definitely made its mark so far. So I'll leave that there. So did anybody else want to have any comments on this? Or No, if not, I'll ask Ms McKinley to go around the room.
Madam Mayor,
4,
Madam Chair,
4,
Councillor Allison,
4.
Councillor Anzalotti,
4,
Councillor Arthur,
4.
Councillor Demoski,
4.
Councillor Gow,
4.
Councillor Liu,
4,
Councillor Mort, 4. Councillor Wang,
4.
10 votes for, unanimous.
Thank you very much. We will declare that item carried. Our last item for the evening is COM 009-25, the Autism Community Network Gala Dinner Outgoing Sponsorship. And I will call for a mover and seconder, please, before we go to, I think, was that you, Councillor Demoski?
That was me.
Okay, is moving it. And I think it was Councillor Mort that was seconding it. Sorry, Councillor Wang. And we will now go to a report from our Manager of City Life, Margaret Lee. Thanks.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. Again, this is a report that is going to Council seeking approval for outgoing sponsorship to the value of $7,500 to be a silver sponsor of the Autism Community Network Gala Dinner that will be held on Friday, the 16th of May, 2025. The request from the Autism Community Network Gala Dinner was assessed by council officers against our sponsorship policy, and as a result of that assessment, the recommendation is that council does support this event by way of a sponsorship, and in the report it details those reciprocal benefits that council obtains from being a silver sponsor. Part of the support for this this event is due to its alignment with council's policies and strategies, including council's disability inclusion action plan. So it helps to advance council's goal of raising disability awareness in the community and empowering organisations that serve people with disabilities. The recommendation is within council's budget, so happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Ms. Lee. Councillors, do we have any questions? Councillor Demoski or Councillor Mort, did you? No? Okay. Councillor Wang.
As a quick question. So this package includes 6 complimentary tickets. So just wondering who can go to these 6 tickets, go to the function.
Through you, Madam Chair. So like all sort of sponsorship events that we have here, Ms McKinley will send out an expression of interest and councillors will express their interest that way.
First the best dress, yeah.
A number of us, Councillor Wang, did go last year. It was a very successful evening, and I'm quite sure that we could come to some sort of arrangement if we've got more than 6 people interested in going to it. It's a very worthwhile event for those who attended last year, and it was very big. As the report says, we did have the Premier in attendance, along with quite a few other luminaries. So it was a very good evening, and it's a very worthwhile cause. So I'm glad that council's involved with it again. Is there any further discussion on this item? No? Okay, I will ask Ms McKinley to please go around the room.
Madam Mayor,
4,
Madam Chair,
4.
Councillor Allison,
4.
Councillor Anzalotti,
4.
Councillor Arthur,
4.
Councillor Demoski,
4.
Councillor Gow,
4.
Councillor Liu,
4,
Councillor Mort, 4. Councillor Wang,
4.
10 votes for, unanimous.
That's great. Thank you so much. We'll declare that one carried, and as that's the last item on the agenda, we can close the meeting at 6:40 p.m. Thank you everybody for your attendance, and thank you to our council officers for putting the business paper together for us tonight. Have a good evening.